Hi everybody, welcome to Newcastle Fans TV. We were planning to have the night off, me and Jonny, but Mike Ashley's spoken, and of course we've got to jump on and had a bit of a chat about that. But this is a special black and white show. It is the Greenwood and Lola show, as I'm nicknaming it tonight. It has a better ring to it than I think than the other one. I do, anyways. But speaking of your show, Jonny, who's coming on tomorrow?
We've got a really big guest on tomorrow. It's Sky Sports News reporter Pete Graves. Big Newcastle fan is Pete. That'll be out Tuesday at 5 o'clock. He talks all things Newcastle. He talks all things the boy Robson, Kevin Keegan. He talks Dennis Wise. He talks Takeover. He talks everything. So it's about an hour or so, but I thoroughly recommend you watch it tomorrow night. It'll be on the main channel at 5 o'clock. So yeah, make sure you've got a bit of time spare tomorrow afternoon/evening.
Yeah, please do. It's a big one. Pete Graves, and not the only one that's coming up, so they'll be revealed later on in the socials later on the week who we've got. But of course, we've seen Mike Ashley release the statement, and any time, Jonny, that Ashley releases the statement, it's big news. I'm not going to lie, I was quite blown away by this one because he's actually backed the fans this time around. Is it a PR stunt, though?
Yes and no. Yes, it's a very good PR stunt because he's the first Premier League owner to come out and absolutely slate the decision by the Premier League, by the broadcasters, whoever, to make this £14.95 per Premier League match. It's a heck of a lot of money. Of course it is. But is it a complete PR stunt? My argument would be no, because someone had to say something. You know, I'm not just talking about Mike Ashley, but someone had to say something. No club has gone on the record to say, this is a joke, this is a travesty. You've got the Premier League blaming the broadcasters, you've got the broadcasters blaming the Premier League. So it's an idea that everyone's thought of. £4.95 is a fair price to watch your team in the current climate, I think, personally. Some people might disagree. Some people might say that's just still a bit too much. But I think that is the maximum it should be, is £4.95. Especially look at the game tonight that was on box office, Brighton versus West Brom. Unless you're a die-hard Brighton fan or a die-hard West Brom fan, you are not paying £14.95 to watch that.
Oh, what was it? The other one that was Burnley and West Brom last week. No, you wouldn't.
Allegedly, 74 people watched that West Brom Burnley game via Sky Sports box office. 74 people.
Well, you know, I'm not going to be commenting on stuff like that, as you know, because it'll get me into trouble. But we want to bring up what Mike Ashley has said. Can you say that nicely on your screen there, Jonny?
Perfect.
Right, I'll read this out to you, and we'll have a chat around this. Newcastle United Mike Ashley has issued the following statement in relation to the Premier League's current pay-per-view arrangement. They are as follows, and he claims, I am calling on the Premier League to immediately act and review its current pay-per-view arrangements for live matches in the UK. Charging £14.95 for single televised matches in the current climate, it is not acceptable by any football fan. Supporters have overwhelmingly rejected this offer, and the Premier League must now act. Why not make it more accessible at £4.95 per match until Christmas? The government should waive the VAT on the above pay-per-view matches so that many of those who are unable to attend matches, we'll come on to that very shortly, in person can at least watch their team. The profit from the above reduced price pay-per-view option, I would suggest that 50% will be retained by the Premier League and the other 50% will go into the football pyramid below. As a club, Newcastle United did vote in favour of the pay-per-view proposal, but to be clear, this was because there was no realistic or any viable alternatives put forward to enable supporters to watch matches. There's a couple of things there, Jonny. Obviously, you mentioned there the price, first of all, £4.95. There's also, as well, the profit will be put down to the football pyramid below. Is that a good option?
I think it's a very good option. I think I'm going to probably big him up here, Mike. Actually, I think it's a perfect proposal, really. I think it's a realistic proposal. Look, the clubs down the bottom pyramid, and I'm talking more League One, League Two teams, are struggling for income because they rely on the gates, where Premier League clubs and probably Championship clubs that have been recently in the Premier League don't. They've got good TV money deals still coming through. So, look, how many games do you see on the Premier League? All the Premier League games are more or less televised anyway at the minute. if they're not. I don't know when the last time they weren't. Championship, there's always 3 or 4 games probably a week now that's televised, and your club's probably, if you're supporting a championship club, you're going to watch your team.
Press the red button. You can watch them live midweek.
Exactly. If you're, say, for a Middlesbrough fan, for example, and God forgive me for that, but you know, they can probably watch their team maybe twice a week. Maybe the odd game they might not be able to watch it, but then they've got their own iFollow. So there's ways and means around it. They've got other money going back into the Premier League. Are the Premier League rich enough already? How much money are they actually still making? I know they've made a loss, and obviously everyone's made a loss since with the whole COVID factor, but it's still a billion pound industry, the Premier League and Premier League football in general. But I think it's a sensible proposal. But the broadcasters are the ones. The broadcasters aren't happy. They want this change because they're being painted out as the bad guys. It's only recently that I've spoken to a couple of newspapers and gone, hold on a second, we didn't agree to this. I want to know who actually did agree to this, by the way. Who thought $14.95 was an acceptable price? But that's a different matter. But Mike Ashley's played his card early, and it's a very good one.
Clever
of course it is, and it's perfect timing. Perfect timing. You know, he's just had, again, a Brighton West Brom game. Terrible. Mike Ashley's been made like the good guy. Now, I know it's just an opinion, but I think a lot of people will agree with that opinion. But Christmas, I'm amazed that it's just till Christmas, though, because I don't see fans going back in until probably after Christmas. I don't know about you, Lee, but I don't know. Yeah. I think Christmas is going to be too early for anybody at the minute.
Yeah, we'll come on about the ticket situation in a moment because it's going to fall along, and we're both different fans, but we're still paying or owed money, which we'll come on to in a moment. But, you know, there's people saying it's a massive PR stunt that Ashley's obviously going against the Premier League because of the takeover situation. It didn't go through. He's using this as a PR stunt to fire back at the Premier League. That's why I think it is. I can get what he's saying, but it's blown me away thinking, had a minute, fuck me, Mike Ashley's actually backing the fans for a change. You've never known that, Johnny. I've never known that ever. Not once in my time that I can say, Mike Ashley backed us. And this is the first time that I can say as a fan, because he hates us. Let's give it. He hates us. We don't like him, but he's come out and said that. But I think it's also PR. It's a massive PR stunt to fire back at the Premier League because he's got this allegedly court case going on behind the scenes to try and get this takeover done, which we all want. And obviously, a lot of people are talking on Twitter, and they think that he's pissed. And if he is pissed, I'm buying the next round. Me, you can have the second round. We'll get him drunk. I mean, looking at it overall, is this his way of firing back the Premier League?
A little bit, but you got to remember what he said the last bit of that statement. 50% should go back to the Premier League as well. So he's kind of, it's like a double-edged sword, I suppose. He's kind of saying the right things and probably the wrong things at the same time about what the Premier League will want to hear. But he's the first club owner to do that since the whole announcement's happening, and it's a perfect timing for him.
Do you feel that if the pay-per-view was successful, he would be coming out saying this anyway?
It depends how much it was, mate. It depends how much it is, because like £10 for a League Cup game was quite expensive in my opinion. And we had to fork that out twice with the games against Blackburn and Morecambe. Now, yes, we won the game, but imagine if we'd lost one of those games. Like, say, Blackburn, for example. Oh, we got beat off Blackburn. I've had to pay £10 for the privilege. Now, because we've won, we've probably not even thought about that, really. We've gone, yeah, £10 well spent, that. But Premier League football it's the toughest league in the world if you're in Newcastle, because we look at it now, and we look at the run of fixtures that we've got, you go, might not be able to get anything from the next 3 or 4 games on paper. Now, I'll even include the Wolves game yesterday. That was a game I didn't really expect us to get anything from. But going back on the statement, I think if the price was, say, lower, and he was still having a go because he thought himself it was too much, then people would be like, well, yeah, that's fair enough, because even if he thinks £4.95 is too much, then would they lower it down if there was a bit of support with it, or could you go down maybe down to £2.99? I don't know, but Newcastle, I don't think they've got many pay-per-view games planned, actually. I think the only one they've got at the minute is Crystal Palace. I think we're on the television for the next few games now. with obviously the newest TV selections, are on the telly against Southampton on a Friday night, which I don't have to travel down for, thank God, on Sky.
I would rather though.
Exactly. I think we both would. I think we both would go down to Southampton on the Friday night and come back. But and then Chelsea's on BT on the 21st. So the only one that really affects us from now till probably the start of December is the Crystal Palace game. So if it was £4.95, I'd pay £4.95. I think £4.95 is the most. I know other people like who may work for the company might get it for free, allegedly, but who knows?
I'm not doing nothing. I like what you're trying to do there. I think
I've heard BT customers get good deals. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, BT maybe. In terms of the winners and losers out the pay-per-view, obviously the losers do look like it's a broadcast because they're getting pushed on it, and a lot of the Premier League productions are having a big say on that as well. But the winners, of course, is the food banks. We're seeing it up and down the country now. The fantastic news, and obviously we've seen it with Marcus Rashford with all the meals going out that he's campaigning, rightly so, and that man deserves a lot of praise and plaudits, and rightly so. They're the winners out of this, aren't they? Newcastle fans, as well as the national fans, have seen something. Oh, wait a minute, we're not paying for that. We're going to put money into kids and families who desperately need it.
Of course, and look, Newcastle were one of the first teams. I think they were the first team because obviously Newcastle United was that big highlighted pay-per-view game a couple of weeks ago now, and they raised I think over £20,000 for the food bank. So a massive, massive well done to anybody that's donated to the food bank on that weekend in particular. But the biggest, I would say, almost the biggest losers are also the fans as well, because they've had to find alternative ways. Let's not be stupid. Some people have said, "I'm not paying that price," and they'll try and find other ways, shall we say, to watch the game. Now, whether that's right,
you can't say that.
I was just going to say whether that's right or wrong. I'll let other people decide that. But look, I think for me personally, the food banks deserve a lot of credit, and it's not just Newcastle. I think Leeds have done something very similar. Arsenal have done something very similar. Liverpool as well. Manchester United just announced that they're going to give schools, I think, 5,000 meals over the half-term week. I know that's a slightly different topic, but yeah, but it's brilliant news because we're all kind of helping each other, and it's more the northern teams as well, by the way. That's another matter as well. But it's just, it is, but it's brilliant. It's everybody that's helping a good. The only good thing that's happened is the help in the food banks, because $14.95. I'd rather pay $14.95 to a food bank. I'm not paying $14.95 to a Sky, BT, a Premier League, whatever money it's going to. I'm still paying money for a season ticket that I'm not even being able to watch. And you expect me to pay another $14.95 to watch us play against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park and Roy Hodgson versus Steve Bruce? Are you having a laugh?
That's what the argument is on Twitter, isn't it? That I'm already paying, which we'll come on to in a second. Since we're talking about Twitter, we'll have a look at what just a couple of people are saying on the latest hashtag NUFC feed. Everyone's talking about it. Look, the first one that comes up, I pay $14.95. If it's $4.95, went to lower league clubs, then the other £10 went into food bank charities. So, 2020 is weird. You're definitely right, Chris Tucker there. There's a lot of people just going on about it. The biggest thing on Twitter tonight, you cannot miss this. $4.95 would be a decent price. And Paul, the Toon Review, who's been on the channel with your video, Jonny, your idea. And it's mad because Ian Smith, another YouTuber who's been on the channel, a lot of people are talking about it and agreeing with Mike Ashley, and it's mental to think. And they're always, for me, Jonny, there's always that worry. What's he up to, really, though? Because history tells us that he's up to something.
The only thing you can think of is possibly the takeover, because obviously he's got a bit of a bean. He's bonnet with the Premier League now. Depends who you listen to. It just depends who you listen. I've not commented on the takeover for all these little things that are coming out. I'll let other people do that because that's what they'll get paid to do. But I'm just sitting very tight and very quiet because there's been a lot of journalists that have put their neck on the line, and you see where it's got them. Like we've kind of almost agreed now, Lee, with the channel that unless it's happened, there's no bother. There's no point in putting it on there because it's ridiculous now. That's my only concern, because it must be something to do with that. Has he said that just to I don't know, put the pressure on the Premier League a little bit? Obviously, this court case that could potentially happen. Who knows? If it does happen, you'd like to think for both parties it'd settle out of court as an out of court settlement, because it will not look good for the Premier League in particular. Because
especially the loser.
Exactly, because it's the brand. It's their brand. It's their
What happens to the next takeover where it's another club?
Let's be brutally honest. I don't think Richard Masters or the board who were on that process ever wanted to accept this takeover. By the way, I think they thought it was just too much. They thought it was just too much power, and I think they kind of look at the Manchester City owner and Sheikh Mansour and gone, "That's probably our maximum." By the way, we don't want another club to kind of almost basically outmatch them. So I have to wait and see. But yeah, Mike Ashley, always keep an eye on him because you have to. You don't know what's going to happen. But on tonight's show, and you've got to say, well played. You have to, because the statement is absolutely brilliant. It is.
Yeah, well, let's turn it onto a more of a negative, because the BBC football journalist, Alistair McGowan, which leaves me nicely on the second part of the video tonight, worth remembering that Newcastle are yet to communicate any information about season ticket refunds to support us as matches continue behind closed doors. There have been recent contact between club and the trust on that matter. Of course, me and Sam are part of the trust. We are trying to push the trust members up because they are the main voice for Newcastle fans. But me and Jonny are very separate in terms of what type of fan we are. I'm still owed money from Manchester City game, where is Sam as well. We still have not had our credit back. I opted for a credit rather than a refund because I thought coming in this season we'd have games to go to, which we haven't. Obviously, that's not going to be looking like until it's March. But I also requested a credit for me last season for the last 5 games, which is probably equivalent of about 140, 150, 160 quid as a
you
credit.
You must have a nice seat. You must have a nice seat.
You know, we asked this. It's not glamorous. But the thing is, I asked for a credit because I thought we're going to go to games this season, October. But obviously that was delayed. But that's not the point. I still don't have that money. And Jonny, you're totally different, whereas you're paying for this season because you're on the longer term plan. So we're 2 different types of fans, but we're still being penalised and we're still having any refunds. Yours, for example, should be stopped completely.
Yeah, it should. I think you were rightly. I think what we were kind of intending or hoping was that before this second spike happened, I think as late August, everything was looking a little bit rosy in regards to coronavirus, in the sense that the numbers were coming right down, and we were kind of, I wouldn't say we're getting back to normal, of course we weren't, but it was looking a little bit more rosier, and we were thinking, well, maybe can we get back in for the Wolves game, or Wolves away, Everton at home? Would that be unrealistic? Obviously, it's not going to happen. Yeah, for me, I think the club should communicate a little bit better. I think they need to say, look, these are our plans. This is plan A, plan B, plan C, and what we're going to do. At the minute, the reason why we're keeping you on this long-term deal and we're still taking money out of your account is because of this reason. We believe that we can get you back into the ground for such and such date. Obviously, that hasn't happened. I think realistically, they wanted us back in for probably the Man United game, you know.
I think it was October, yeah. I think they were banking on October because now it's them who's going to be in debt with the fans. And it only takes one court case to spiral something. And I wanted to highlight my communication as well with the club as well, which I'm going to highlight because I'm getting a little bit annoyed by it with the communication. I would just want to show people, maybe from people who aren't season ticket holders or people from outside the UK, and what we've got to dealing with the club on a day-to-day basis. Now, this is an email that I sent, as you can see, it was on the 15th of October, which is last week, a week or 2 back now. And it says, "Hi guys, this is now the second time I'm having to chase money owed to myself regarding last season's games fans can't go to. I'm waiting for the 5 home games and the Manchester City FA Cup game to be refunded/credited. It is now October the 15th. Can I please have the money owed to me refunded? This is going on now for far too long. Many thanks, Lee." So I was nice, but I was straight up because I'm getting a little bit fed up, Jonny, of having to wait on the answer. And this is the response, and this is a similar kind of response that I'm getting over and over again. This has nothing to do with Jan who works there. This is just the response I'm getting from every person who works at the box office, which I presume they're getting told heads down. "Highly, I've requested an account credit. You have requested an account credit, not a refund. We have already advised that the club will contact you with the amount of credit you have and what it can be used for. Kind regards." And that's all the answers that I'm getting, Jonny. That's it. I'm not getting told when it's getting put on. All it is it'll be soon, it'll be soon, it'll be soon. And we're coming up to the very end of October now. And it's a case of how long are we going to be hanging on for myself but differently for you because you'll be owed money legally. You'll be owed money as well, and there's no communication there, and it's like we're frustrated as anything because we can't go to games, and effectively at the moment they're stealing money from us because we can't go to games.
I'll say allegedly just to be on the safe side for that one, but if the club came back to me and said, "Look, Jonathan, right, you've paid this amount of money for no Premier League matches. Would you like the next 6-7 months instalments not to be paid, and that will pretty much average out that you pretty much get a free season ticket, or a majority of the games will be free."
Would you get a Happy Meal?
Probably. But if that came back and said, "Look, we'll freeze your payments for 6-7 months because you've paid the next 6-7 months, and we'll get you back on track," that will say August next year, you go back onto paying what you pay because you've missed that amount of games, and hopefully by that time you have some Premier League games to watch. If they said something like that, or something on the lines of that, I'll be like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I think that's a fair enough plan. Brilliant. I just think, and I'm not going to defend the club a lot, I just think they were told, be ready for fans to be back in. And I think what's happened is they've had to wait another couple of weeks, and I think the pressure of them, all the pressure of the Premier League clubs were to get fans in because it was close. You've seen in a couple of championship games, Norwich had 1,000 fans in. Other clubs had 1,000 fans in. They thought, well, we're getting there. Just leave it. Now the fact that they've had to put a statement out today to saying that it should be $4.95 till Christmas for pay-per-view games, we're not going to see Newcastle play till Christmas at home at the very earliest. Now, we knew that. I knew that. You knew that, Lee. So you're looking at who we got in January. Leeds United. I think that's a Tuesday night game. I think that could be a potential game that they might look at. Maybe it's still even a bit early, but they will want fans in straight away to save them the hassle. Now, they might go to you and go, well, here's £125 to spend in the club shop. Or they might say that's £125. Would you like to have a ticket in the box for a game when it's COVID-free? They'll think of ideas. But the communication needs to be so much better.
I won't be going to the club shop because that's Sports Direct.
Well, you know what I mean. Like,
I know
what you're saying, something on the lines of that.
Just in case someone's in the comments saying Lee's going to go to the shop. I do miss it. Obviously, you've talked about the fact that we can't go in, and it's starting to be a topic now in a lot of stuff like Football Focus, magazine type shows. ESPN talk about it as well. Is why can't they have separate seating where you've got a family of 3 sit together, and then there's a gap of 3 spaces for another family of 1 or 2, and throughout the stadium. And obviously they were talking about big time for the Wembley game, which was England. Nobody there. Why can't you put 5,000 in a 90,000 seat stadium? I mean, you've got people going to the cinema. We're seeing it with the Royal, what was it, the Orchestra, where they were all sat in, congregated together. I forgot what it's called. There was something on BBC, the Proms or something like that.
I've never listened to anything like that in my life.
I didn't listen to that. I seen a picture on it was on with Twitter. We put it out, and there's tons of people inside. It's like, why can't you do that for football? But it's frustrating because we've got Mike Ashley coming out, but yeah, people on Twitter are kind of agreeing with him, strangely. But on the flip side, is well, wait a minute, give us our season ticket money back then if you're going to do that. So
yeah, I think the trend is let fans in, and there's going to be a discussion in Parliament. I think it's the 9th of November potentially, because obviously there's over 100,000 signatures on that. Obviously that proposal to get fans back into stadiums, or at least some fans back into stadiums. Look, realistically, how many fans you could fit into St James's? We're using St James's for example. It's a 52,000 seater stadium. You're telling me you couldn't fit 18,000 fans potentially spaced out? In my opinion, I think you could put a third in, 17, 18,000. And would that work? Yeah, because you still generate that atmosphere. Now, you're seeing Europa League matches, international games. Now, I know obviously it might be different in those countries in terms of the COVID, but they're spaced out then. There were people watching the Formula 1 in Portugal yesterday, and there was loads of people there, but all spaced out, and it still generated an atmosphere. It was almost like it was a proper F1 race. Now, with the football, especially the lower clubs, now, there's no... Carlisle, not too far away from where we are, right? You're telling me they can't have 1,000 fans in, spaced out?
Well, the lower league, that's why I've been going to the games. You know, like the non-league clubs, I've been going to the women's game to get my fix. So
Sorry, they got cramp there.
It's frustrating. I think we'll wrap it up there. We want to know what you think, of course. Like I mentioned earlier on, Johnny's mentioned it. Big guest tomorrow, Pete Graves. Make sure you tune in for that. He's talking all things regarding the tune, takeovers, to his past experiences. What else is he talking about?
There's a lovely story about Savoy Robson. I'll not give it away, but it's definitely worth a watch. But look, Pete's a massive Newcastle fan, like anybody else that probably watches Newcastle fans TV or the club more often, because obviously he's had a tough time with Twitter with Newcastle fans, and he's talked about a very open and honest story about, you know, a couple of fans saying things that he didn't necessarily agree with, but he's very honest. It's refreshing, it's honest, and it's brilliant for him to speak to me and Sam, because he didn't have to. You know, he could have easily said, no, I'm too busy, but he gave us the time of day, and I thought, well, fair play to him. So, yeah, tell us what you think. We have got another guest that's just been confirmed as of this afternoon. We're not going to tell you what it is, but it'll be a box office guest, shall we say? Not give too much away.
We'll give to him because you might upset Sam.
I think you've already upset him with your little title for the start of this video. To be fair, I'm expecting
Greenwood and Lawler. So let me know what you think. I think that's got a better ring. Yeah. You know what I did there?
You know what I think's better?
What?
Jonathan and Greenwood show. You made that up.
Yeah,
and you made it brilliant.
Liam slipped up. No, it was Carl who slipped up yesterday. Pete's a lovely bloke. I've met him obviously down Sky Sports News. He probably looked after me, and Rob kept coming up to us asking if we're all right and stuff. And that was difficult on transfer deadline day because I was raging. But to tune into that, that's at tea time tomorrow, 5 p.m. Get your brew. How long is it, Johnny? About an hour?
About an hour, yeah.
Yeah, tune in tomorrow. Right, let us know what you think of Ashley and the season tickets. And from me and Johnny, the Greenwood and Lola show. Have a good night, everyone. Ta-ra.